it's not pleasant. So when Crackers takes Cookie the spy up to the shed to see the chickens, you might want to avert your eyes for 5 minutes, just don't phone the police. John Waters has said over the years there's one scene in it that offends even him now. There's another scene he wouldn't have put in it. This is easy enough to work out which scene, as it was the year of Deep Throat. And he says he would remove it if he could. It's obviously not available in the UK, but it is here tonight, unexpurgated. He would remove it if he could, but people say it would just be censored. As for the chicken fuck scene, he's never apologised for it, and as he says, I eat chicken, it doesn't land on my plate from a heart attack. We made that chicken's life better, it got fucked and it got to be in a movie. And right after we ate the chicken, which is true, there are deleted scenes where they did eat it. What he has apologised for, as there are a couple of jokes in it with total disregard for the victims, he has apologised for the endless jokes about the Manson murders, which informed his early career. Okay, here he is on the Flamingo set. Now, he's a suburban boy from the lower middle classes, inexplicably fascinated by the macabre. Waters found an outlet for his early obsessions in the movies. Now, the various movies that you were going to hell if you went to go and see Baby Doll, the nuns at school told him, I couldn't wait. Russ Mayo movies and Blood Feast coming up. He used to watch from his bedroom window with binoculars at the local drive-in. He did actually make it to film school in New York, and he hated it because all they did was talk about Battleship Potemkin and David Lean. You can't blame him, can you? He was eventually kicked out of film school on a marijuana bust. Back in Baltimore, he started to hang around with some, say, unusual people. A lot of them druggies, a lot of them dropouts, a lot of them from the criminal fringes of society. They became stars. His repertory company called the Dreamlanders. And the Dreamlanders make Warhol superstars look provincial in comparison. He made many short films that were shown all over Baltimore. They'd flyer everywhere, they were shown at churches. Multiple Maniacs, his first sound film, actually did play dates over the country. He sent it to Robert Shea, the president of New Line Cinema. Now, he saw Multiple Maniacs, got back to John Waters and said it's just too awful. But I'd be interested in what you see in the future. Shea got the print of Pink Flamingos, watched it, and in a documentary about midnight movies says he had to, and he's never done it before or since, go back into the projection box, rewind it, to just make sure that what he saw he did actually see. So he knew he had something, but they didn't quite know what. And it stayed on the shelf for about a year. Now, it opened in one gay porno house in Boston. Now, you don't open Pink Flamingos in a gay porno house. I'm sure people have got off to it over the years. Power to them, but it's a bit like ex-boyfriend of mine. Once he told me that he got off on David Cronenberg's Crash, it was over. What did happen was, the manager of the Elgin, now the Elgin Theatre in Manhattan kicked off the midnight movie. It kicked off with El Topo. He agreed to show it one Saturday. Note the wrong spelling on the marquee. The first Saturday night, a few people turned up. John thought, well, that's it. The manager of the Elgin said, okay, we'll do it next weekend and see how it goes. The rest is history. Lines when he arrived the following Saturday were around the block. It went to 2 nights a week, 3 nights a week, 4, 5, 6, and it ended up playing in Manhattan basically for the rest of the 70s. It wasn't until 1974 that Variety even got round to reviewing it. Now you can't buy publicity. You can't buy publicity like that. It's immediately stamped on all publicity, and it's been its best review ever since. Everyone involved in the film were Dreamlanders, but of the principal cast, Cotton, Mary Vivian Pearce, left top row, is his best friend since childhood. She's been in every single one of his movies, although in his later films, she only does the odd line. He says Mink Stoll, in the centre, is the best actress who's ever appeared in any of his films. She's appeared in all of them since, she appeared in quite a lot of the early ones, ever since big parts. She's done off-Broadway shows. But there were two particular Dreamlanders who stood out. Right, Edith Massey.
Yeah.
Massey worked in a really, really, really rough bar, and that they all hung out in. He talked her into appearing into Multiple Maniacs, and then he wrote the part of Mama Edie the Egg Lady for her. Massey has a unique acting style. That is, she can't act for shit. She used to write her lines out over and over again until she remembered them, and then it would be, she'd say her line, and then she'd say, Edie walks across the set, and those are your directions. She would actually fuck up take after take after take, and Divine used to get infuriated with her. As I said, Massey couldn't act a damn, but that didn't matter. She has such presence. Audiences loved her. As one reviewer said, I don't know whether she deserves an Oscar or a 24-hour nurse. To which she replied, I'd like both. On a visit to Andy Warhol's factory in the early 70s, he was taking Polaroids of her all night. Andy Warhol was always very supportive of John Waters, talking to her all night, and even Warhol said to Waters, she's amazing, where did you find her? And in the car on the way home she went, which one was Mr. Warhol? As we said, right. Divine had grown up down the street from John Waters. They didn't actually meet until their late teens. He needed a police escort home from school every day, his bullying for his obesity and his effeminacy. They came up with this character, Divine, together. They are each other's muses. Divine called getting into drag. That became a very popular punk t-shirt, as did the previous picture of Massey in the see-through leather thing. They came up with the character together. Divine wanted to be famous. Here he is at Studio 54, and that is somewhere that John Waters wouldn't even think of attending. He didn't like to be labelled a drag queen. He called drag his work clothes. He certainly didn't like to be labelled a female impersonator or transvestite. If their friendship soured over the years, as many sources allege, apparently at the end at Hairspray it was very much director-star. When Hairspray opened in '97, it was a very, very happy time in Divine's life. He'd been reunited with his parents. It was nothing to do with the fact he was gay or they appeared in these movies. It was the fact that he spent all their money, and repeatedly, basically, and he hadn't spoken to them for about a decade. He was due to start work on Married with Children, the US sitcom at the time, when he died of massive heart failure. At his funeral, which brought Baltimore to a standstill, they sent him a reed saying, if you didn't want the part, you could have just said. Okay, of his later films, Crybaby, it's not a favourite of mine, I have to be honest, but it is the first film that put Johnny Depp above the title, made him for his first big starring role. Now, of his later period, this is by far the best. It brings the anarchy back. Give it a clap.
Yeah!
See, Max? When rehearsing Serial Mom at his Baltimore home, as he always does, he always rehearses at home, he said he knows he was someone, or he knew that the world had come together for the first time when Mink Stoll was calling Kathleen Turner a cock-sucking whore. Turner here is not slumming it at all. She could have been a Dreamlander, and he said she did everything I wanted and more. If you haven't seen it, it's my favourite comedic performance by a woman of all time. It's amazing. She's fantastic. I wish we could watch it straight after, but we can't. We're getting late. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. Okay, I don't put my talks together from Wikipedia. I obviously do use a lot of sources. It's not all up here. If you do want a copy of the various books that I use, and there were quite a few actually for both of them, just send me an email and I can send you the sources. They would be far too long to list here. Okay? But like I say, whatever you do, I've warned you, don't defend the police.
Yeah!